Adolf Hitler, the most infamous name in human history. But while the world knows his story, few ever ask what became of the people who shared his blood. His brothers, his sister, his nephews. What happened to the family of the man responsible for one of the darkest chapters humanity has ever seen? This is the forgotten story of Hitler's family after the war. Adolf Hitler was born in 1889 in Braunau am Inn, Austria. His father, Alois Hitler Sr., was a strict and often violent man, a customs officer who ruled his family with discipline and fear. His mother, Clara, was gentle and caring, deeply devoted to her son. But behind the walls of their home, tragedy and tension were constant companions. Of the 6 children born to Alois and Clara, only Adolf and his younger sister Paula survived to adulthood. Yet Hitler's family tree stretched wider and darker than most realize. Before Clara, Alois Sr. had married twice before, leaving behind half-siblings who would later play quiet but curious roles in history. Among them, Alois Jr. and Angela, the half-brother and half-sister of Adolf Hitler. Alois Jr. was restless and ambitious. He worked in restaurants, hotels, and bars across Europe, eventually finding his way to Dublin and London. There, he married an Irish woman named Bridget Dowling, and together they had a son, William Patrick Hitler. That boy, born in 1911, would grow up to become the dictator's own nephew. When Adolf rose to power in Germany, William traveled to meet his famous uncle. At first, Adolf treated him kindly, offering him work and recognition. But soon he realized what his uncle was becoming. He saw the propaganda, the persecution, the growing madness. And when he refused to become part of the Nazi regime, the relationship shattered. William left Germany and fled to the United States just before the war began. In 1939, as war erupted across Europe, William Patrick Hitler made a shocking decision. He denounced his uncle publicly, writing articles titled, "Why I Hate My Uncle." Then, in 1944, he joined the U.S. Navy, fighting against the country his uncle commanded. He served bravely until the war's end. When victory came, William did not celebrate loudly. Instead, he disappeared into quiet life, changing his last name to Stuart Houston to hide his identity. He settled in a modest home on Long Island, New York. He married, had 4 sons, and lived the rest of his life far from the headlines. Neighbors described him as polite, private, and careful never to mention his past. Those 4 sons, carrying the bloodline of Adolf Hitler, made a solemn vow. None of them would ever have children. They would let the name and the legacy end with them. Back in Austria, other branches of the Hitler family struggled to survive the shadow of their infamous relative. Adolf's half-sister Angela had once served as housekeeper at his mountain retreat, the Berghof. She supported him early on, but after the war, she vanished into obscurity, living quietly until her death in 1949. Her daughter, Geli Raubal, had been close to Adolf, perhaps too close. She died mysteriously in 1931, long before the war, an event that deeply disturbed him and fed countless rumors for decades. Adolf's full sister, Paula Hitler, was the only sibling still alive when Germany fell. She lived under the name Paula Wolf to conceal her identity. After the war, she was arrested by Allied forces, questioned, and later released. She lived the rest of her life in poverty and isolation, dying in 1960 in a small apartment in Vienna. She never married, never had children, and never escaped the weight of her brother's crimes. By the 1950s, the Hitler family name had nearly vanished. Some changed their surnames. Others moved abroad, hoping no one would trace their bloodline. Those who remained in Austria or Germany lived quiet, almost invisible lives, fearful that any connection to Adolf would bring hatred or shame upon them. Historians who searched for the family decades later found that almost all had chosen silence. One American journalist tracked down William's descendants in the 1990s, 3 surviving nephews living under assumed names. When asked about their family history, one of them said simply, "We just want it to end with us." And so it did. As far as history can tell, Adolf Hitler's direct family line ends in the modern day. No surviving children, no grandchildren, no heirs. Only a bloodline that chose, willingly, to disappear, to bury itself beneath the weight of a name the world could never forget. The story of Adolf Hitler's family is not of power or pride. It is a story of escape, of shame, and of quiet redemption. While one man tried to reshape the world through hate and war, his surviving relatives spent their lives running from his shadow, trying to make sure his name would die with them. In the end, perhaps that is the final judgment of history, that evil, no matter how powerful, cannot survive forever. Even the family of Adolf Hitler chose not to let it live on. This is Command History, bringing you the untold stories, the hidden truths, and the human faces behind World War II. Subscribe for more forgotten chapters of history.